So our topic today is Enlighten Up. I like that one. I was pleased with myself. So the theme this month has been Christ consciousness. And so we'll do a little substance before we get to the easy stuff. So the substance is Christ consciousness. There's one power, one presence in, through, and as all creation. There's only one thing in this room. There's not many things happening. There's one. And we're all part of an expression of that one. So I'm not separate from anyone in this room, and we're not separate from each other. We're all one. We're all one with everyone on this planet. We're all beings, all plants, all animals. The entire earth itself is a living organism. The galaxies, the cosmos, all one thing happening. And within and as that one, we are each beautiful, unique expressions of that one. Not separate, not with borders. It's one of those divine paradox, the both and. So we're one, and yet we're an individualized expression. So just as we were given this unique body with its unique thumbprint that doesn't match anyone else, we have a unique soul print that is completely unique to every being on this planet. So the Christ consciousness is the individualized expression of the one. You can also call it the Buddha consciousness, or the Atman consciousness, which is from Hinduism. God consciousness implies the oneness. It's that individualized expression. So we are all of that. We are the one, and we are that individualized expression, and that part of us was never birthless, has never been birthed, and never has died, will ever die. It's eternal. It's always there. And it is always whole, perfect, and complete. So nothing can ever hurt us. That eternal self, whatever stuff, the dust and grit of the journey, when we leave this body, that wholeness is still there. We can never add on to that wholeness, that perfection, that Christ consciousness, that Buddha consciousness, and we can never take away from it. And so much of the spiritual journey is to become more in tune and more identified with that wholeness and that perfection of who and what we are, that transcends time and space. But then the rest of the month, we went to the dark side. We went to our finite self, because within that eternal perfection, we are still a finite expression. We still are a human, relative, limited experience. And so one Sunday I talked about owning our shadow side, stuff that we project out onto the world, our anger, our frustrations, all the things that we don't like and we get triggered by. That when I mean triggered, I mean we get emotional. We have an emotional reaction to something out there. That's something within ourselves that we haven't owned and healed. So that's the way we start taking ourselves back, because we are the entire universe. So anytime we think it's just out there and it's not part of me, I've created separation. So part of this journey is to integrate the dark, the limited side, the negative side. And then last week we were talking about and live in forgiveness for that part of ourselves. Because as long as we're in this human body, this body that will leave, we'll be finite. We'll be making mistakes all of the time. So forgiveness is a daily practice. I said 70 times 700 trillion. We never stop forgiving, because we'll always find ways we come up short. What I find on the spiritual journey is often we get people who are either in two camps, or we ourselves go through a pendulum swing. The two camps are sort of what we call the spiritual bypass people, who are like, oh, it's all God, it's all perfect, everything's wonderful, and sort of we think of the airy fairy, just like it's all good, and don't really feel the reality of the challenges of the world, the relationship, the physical health, the stuff happening in the world that's very painful, externally and internally, financial challenges, just the daily to-do list that we all have, just this dust and the grit of the journey. So we call that spiritual bypass. The other group of people can do the opposite in this desire to be completely authentic. They're always focusing on what's wrong. Well, I have to do my shadow work. I have to do my forgiveness work. I have to really process and be real about my stuff and my limitations. And that becomes one's identity. Your stuff becomes in one's desire to be authentic, one's stuff becomes one identity. So what we have to remember, as I mentioned in the email that I sent out, is that God didn't create this earth to be a torture chamber. I love that. We are not here just to process stuff all of the time and to heal ourselves, or to always trying to fix ourselves by knowing I'm Christ consciousness. I'm always trying to perfect myself. That there's a playfulness that created this creation. Sri Aurobindo, another Hindu guru, talked about that it's delight, it was God's pure delight to create form, that this form is created out of delight. And we sometimes forget that. I remember in high school, I went to, one summer I went to Andover Summer School, and I was in a writing class, and we read a Woody Allen short story for where one of the characters in his story wanted to enter a novel. He wanted to enter into the novel and have an experience with the characters. So our writing assignment was to say, well, what novel would we want to join in? What would we want to jump into and have an interaction with the characters? And actually, some people picked nonfiction. It could be fiction or nonfiction. But here was the thing. No one said, nah, I don't want to play. I don't want to jump into any novels. We want to play. We came to this earth, I don't know this, but I don't believe it, we were forced. There is a desire to be here. We want to participate and play in this story. Actors want to still be in tragedies, even though they're sad. Why? Because there's something deep that they start to discover within themselves. Their heart begins to open in softness at the frailty of human nature. There's something that we get to experience from both the tragedies and the comedies. And comedies can open our hearts in a whole different way. But we want to play. We want to participate in those stories. I remember one time I noticed I loved reading biographies. And what I recognized about biographies is they told the whole picture of someone's life. Because sometimes I would get so serious about the details, and it was all so important. But when I could see the big picture, I'm like, oh, it all seems to work out all the time. People's lives, even if, well, eternally, even if it doesn't work out physically here, in the other dimensions, that it opens up to the big picture, to stop seeing things so minutiaely and to take everything so seriously. We can open up and say it's all God, just as it is. And this is what's called the non-dual reality. This is what Ken Wilber was talking about in his book, One Taste, that Wayne did a reading from. It was it's a process. And he has a few of those in there, but basically he's talking about how everything is God. We cannot be outside of God. And what I noticed, so non-duality, so I won't go into this, but in previous talks I've talked about these are different states of consciousness that may ring a bell: causal, subtle, gross, physical. But non-duality is the circle. It's all of it. We can never be, no matter where we are, we're in God. So some of you were raised in the Christian tradition. Some of you may have been raised with no tradition at all. Some of you may be raised in another religion. So you all may have different reactions to this picture. But if you're raised in the Christian tradition, one of the images that we see of Jesus is a very serious Jesus. So this is my central focus on my altar. It's the laughing Jesus. And it was to transform this idea that life is suffering and is about suffering. And so anytime I'm in a dark place, I keep looking at that and just remember cosmic bliss. Everything in the end is bliss. And not only in the end, but in the beginning and in the middle and in between. There was this book, One Taste, that I was reading. Wilbur was doing one of those pointing out instructions, how it's all God. And I remember finished reading it, and it was just, I'm just reading it. It's a book. And I'm walking out. I know exactly where I was. And suddenly, everything was just delightful. I had this incredible, it was just giggling inside of my heart. Not like laughing, but giggling. It was just pure joy. Everything was joy. Nothing had changed in my life. And this is the key with non-duality. Nothing has to change. I just suddenly saw it. Oh my gosh. We're the entire universe, and I just couldn't help but giggle and be just so happy about the whole thing. And what we have to, what we're an intention is to wake up to that reality, to wake up and see it at any moment. It's available to us. We don't have to change anything in our life, and this is the big part, or fix anything. It is always ever present if we're willing to see it. And one of the ways we get willing to see it is to stop rejecting parts of that we don't consider spiritual. So I had a shift of how I understood this. I was watching a video of Genpo Roshi, who was doing what he calls a big mind process. And it's a whole process where you give voice to all different aspects of yourself, your controlling self, your a fearful self, your funny self. So we have all these voices. And then he divided this group. And it took him a while, so I won't do it here. But he had this group. He said, well, you're the people seeking truth. And you're the people who have found truth. Now give voice, this side of the room, give voice to what you started saying when you're seeking truth. And it took them a while, but finally they started coming up with what does that voice sound like when you're always seeking truth. Then he had this side of the room. He said, okay, what's it sound like? What kind of things do you say when you've already found it? And again, it took them a while to find that voice, but when they found the voice. Now, in my head, before I really got this, I thought, that's where we want to get to. That's where we start, and that's where we want to get to. And he said, God, big mind, is all of it. It's the seeking mind. It's that part of us that's always seeking, and it's that part of us that always already knows. So, for instance, the Course of Miracles talks about, well, there's love and there's fear. And we always say, well, if we're really spiritual, we're in love, we're not in fear. Big mind says, no, we're fear. There's always going to be a part of us that's in fear, and we're also loving. We're infinitely loving, that all of those things are God. There's nothing in us that's God. Okay, so I judge people. I hear people all the time say, I'm trying to let go of judging, and yet I've never met anyone who's been able to let go of judging. We start to accept those part of ourselves. Oh, that's the judging me. It's this, yes, I'm all of it. I was talking with a woman this week, and she was trying to get past, in Livermore. She's trying to get past an issue that she liked her life, but felt that there was a part of her that's always nagging at her that she hadn't done it right because it wasn't really what her mom wanted. And because of that, she didn't have a good connection with her mother. And that was her little girl self had wanted to live a different life that matched her parents' side. So over the years, she's gotten very conscious and tried to talk to this little girl and say, no, this is the life that really suits my unique soul, and I'm very happy, and basically get over it. And so my suggestion was, well, why don't you just accept your little girl's disappointed, and she has a right to be disappointed. There's something nice about wanting to do what your parents want you to do and to have a nice relationship, and it does, I was going to say a bad word, it does not feel good. When it doesn't work out, when you don't feel that, and that's okay. Just let her feel that, and let that always be a part of who you are. You don't have to fix her. You don't have to make her anything else. You don't have to get rid of her. She's going to be there your whole life, and just love her and accept her as she is. And I could just feel the relief, the letting go of just letting ourselves be. And this is what the one taste is just let ourselves be. I'm judging, I'm great, I'm loving. I'm scared, I'm happy. All the various things that we have, it's all God right now. Just as I said at the beginning, there will never be any more God anyplace else. Right now, everything, you don't need to change a thing. The fullness of God is. Yesterday, I was looking for just one sort of really fun story, and I couldn't think, nothing was coming, and thank goodness for NPR and This American Life. And I don't know about you, I always hear just when I'm in the car, so I always get bits and pieces, not the whole thing. And it was perfect. God always answers. It was the perfect story. It was a couple who had taken on her mother who had Alzheimer's and brought her into her house. And she says, I like rules. I want to know how to handle these things. So she was very frustrated because the way we connect with family is through memories. We start to talk about, oh, do you remember this or do you remember that? And that's how they made 2 points which I liked. It's one, how we connect, but we're also talking about fun times because usually when we're hanging out, we're not doing anything fun and exciting. So it's fun to talk about the drama. We like drama. So when you don't have that with an Alzheimer's patient, she didn't know how to connect. And she didn't know the rules, so she Googled it. And she said, then I read something which is step into their world. And she said, that's it. I know how to do that because I'm an actress and I do improv, and my husband's an actor and he does improv. And that's exactly what you do when you're doing improv. The idea of improv is you always accept the other person's premise. So they step out onto the stage and they say a line, you just accept it. You don't argue with it. You don't say, well, maybe that's true, or you accept the full thing and go, yes. So she says it's yes and. Step into the other person's world and you play. So she said, for instance, often Alzheimer's patients say, I want to go home. It's time for me to leave and go home. And she said, often our response is, well, this is your new home, and let's show you, remind you, here's your room, and let's be happy here. And so she said, now what she does when her mother says, it's time to go home, I need to go home, you need to take me home. She says, I probably do need to take you home. Can you tell me about your home? Let's talk. And then again, she starts creating this world of what her home feels like. So now we're not resisting the world of how it should be, how our rules tell us the world should be. We're going into the play of it. We're going into the expression of it. But her husband, he said, took it a step further. They had recently moved, and he loves to perform. And he hadn't found a new theater, so he really had a good time with his mother-in-law. So these were just great stories. So that one time they're talking, and the mother-in-law said, there's monkeys outside. And he goes, I know. He said, and it's not even monkey season. And she said, well, there's not that many this time of year. And he said, yeah. I said, wouldn't it be cool if we had monkeys as pets? He said, but we couldn't do that without putting pants and shoes on them because it just would be barbaric to have monkeys as pets without having pants. And she looks at him, she just starts laughing. She says, we can't have monkeys as pets. They belong outside. And they're just having this incredible, but they're connecting. And they're just saying, you're such a nice boy. That suddenly she's present. She's alive. And then there was another one where he said she'll just sit on the porch and just stare because her mind's not fully there. And she saw the dog digging, and there's something about coal. So he says, oh, yeah. Well, he's digging for the coal mine that we have. And our business, the coal mine business. You're going to go into the mines, aren't you? And she said, no. I don't do coal mining. And he goes, you don't? He said, our whole process, our whole business was created to serve you to do coal mining. If you don't do coal mining, Grandma or Mom, we're going to have to close down the business. And you can hear on the NPR, she's just laughing away. She's just enjoying, because she gets the humor and the joy of it, because he's just playing with her world. He's not resisting her. He's just going into it. Yes, and. Yes, whatever's showing up. So much of why we don't like life is because we have an idea of what life should be, and then it's not happening the way, and so we're always trying to get it to be the way we should be. We're trying to be spiritual the way we should be. Yes, whatever's showing up, yes. Yes, and let's play with whatever's showing up. If it's harshness, yes. How am I going to be fully engaged in this to get the richness and the gold from that experience? If it's joyful, how am I going to be with that? Mostly if it's unexpected. I love this idea of improv, that life is unexpected. We always have all these plans. We plan, God laughs, right? Just play. This is a world of delight. Yes, and play. And I love that. I mean, Alzheimer's is something that we think of, and I had a grandmother with Alzheimer's with so much pain. And to turn something like that into something so joyful, and to hear her laughing, that was just the most, she just got such a kick out of this. Yes, and. So the invitation this week is yes, and. Fully say yes. Don't fight the premise of what's being presented to you. Don't fight the premise and say, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. This person isn't the way it's supposed to be. This thing isn't supposed to be the way isn't the way it's supposed to be. Because that is what causes us so much angst. Just the judgment there. Okay, and then we can say, oh yeah, that's me judging too. Yes, and. I'm judging. Yes. I'm fearful. Yes. All right, I'm not resisting it. I'm not resisting anything. Yes, and. So that's my invitation this week. Yes, and. Everything that's arising from this moment forward, yes, and. The fullness of God is right here. It's not supposed to be anything other than what it is right now. Yes, and. And that's enlightening up. Let's pray. And how grateful I am to know that this power, this presence is infinite bliss all of the time. It is never in fear, it is never confused, it is never judging of anything. It delights in all aspects of itself, and it delights right here and right now, as each and every one in this room, it is delighting as itself, as us, all our quirks, all our limitations, all those areas we're working to heal, those areas that we already love about ourselves, all aspects of it is included in this one life, this one power, this one bliss, this one presence that I call God. And so today, in this moment, we just accept everything as it is. We accept the premises that are being given to us moment by moment. We are accepting our response to it, whether it's negative or positive. We just accept, oh, that's what's arising now. Yes, this is what's arising now. Yes. And from that yes, we realize we are oceanic beings of light and of love, that we truly have no limits ourselves, that there is no place where that infinite self is not being itself. Any self-contraction is included in the yes and. So there's no limitations ever. We are never limited, even in our contractions. There is the infinite yes, the infinite yes, the infinite bliss. And so we hold this in every area of our life right here, right now. If we're dealing with physical challenges, emotional challenges, mental challenges, if we are dealing with challenges at work, if we are dealing with challenges at home with our family, in relationships, in finances, in work life, in just the day-to-day life, we just open our hearts and just say yes, yes, and. We say yes to all our stuff. Yes, and. Yes, and we are here to play. We are here because we want to be here. We are fully grounded, our feet on the ground, and our spirit soaring in infinity. We are that now. We allow that healing of peace and joy and bliss to happen now without having to fix anything in the conditional world. Although things may shift with that yes and, we don't attach. We just live yes and. Yes, and we are that enlightened self always already, and today we get to experience the bliss of being that always already enlightened self, whole, perfect, and complete. That includes all of us now. And as we know this for ourselves, we know this for every being on this planet, knowing there is no separation here. And so we hold this, especially for those who are in depths of despair, who feel hopeless, who are suffering, who are feeling angry and violent and feeling like they need to hurt other people to get what they want. All of the pain and suffering that we know is on this planet, even as we speak, physical pain. We just look with the eyes of God, with the eyes of love. We don't resist it. It is infinite compassion. It is that infinite yes that knows no limits, that knows no conditions. We continue to see only love, only wholeness, only perfection. Yes, and. Yes, and. That pain is not the whole story. That suffering is not the whole story. It is part of a much, much, much bigger story of which we are all a part. And it is that infinite yes of light and of love and of bliss. And we are that placeholder. We are that being to see it and to know it for ourselves, for our community, for this planet, for the cosmos. Yes, and. We are the enlightened self now. We are being a place of healing and joy and bliss. And for all of this good, I just say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, God. And in deep and abiding peace and infinite joy, I just let this word be now. And I invite us all to say,